Before I introduce this evening's speaker, I unfortunately have some sad news to share with everybody here. I'm sure most of you who've been involved in local history remember Alan Kuhn. Alan Kuhn, sadly, after an extended illness, passed away last night.
Who did?
Alan Kuhn.
He's somebody who, as a Navy veteran, had been involved in reminding all of us of the veterans of all wars. One of the resources that we use for anybody who's interested in military history, of anybody who comes in here in the archives researching that kind of history, we pull out the resource that Alan spent many years putting together. And he was somebody obviously very committed to history as well. Nancy, myself, and a few other people were working on a list to post in the post office of everybody who was a Civil War enlistee from Rhinebeck. It was Alan who was our authority on that. And it was Alan who was more responsible than anybody else for getting the Doughboy where it is here in the center of the village. And it was Alan who made sure that flags were posted on the gravestones, next to the gravestones of all the veterans in the Rhinebeck cemeteries. So if you happen to go out to a cemetery and see a flag next to it, think about it. Yes, Ellen.
And the plaques on the Doughboy and certain things are listing all the veterans of all the wars. And he did lots of research for
Yes.
that.
Yes, he certainly did. He's somebody who is, and will remain, a treasure to all of us who are interested in local history and the history of our veterans. Let me also just remind everybody about upcoming programs. On October 28th, Jack Conklin will be talking here about the history of Slate Quarry Road. And on November 18th, Connie Lown and myself will be discussing the collection of Astor maps. There are a couple of seats over on the right-hand side there. And then on December 10th at the Rhine Cliff, David Miller will be talking about the article that appeared in the most recent newsletter, namely on the history of beer making and hops, etc. in this area. So some interesting upcoming programs. So without further ado, let me talk about tonight's program. Scott Rector, on my right, is somebody who's serving as the Chief of Interpretation at the Roosevelt Vanderbilt National Historic Site. Has been doing that for 21 years, I understand, and is actually a veteran of 30 years in the National Park Service. He began his career at the Cape Cod National Seashore and has since worked at the Statue of Liberty National Monument, Sagamore Hill National Historic Site, and also at Fire Island National Seashore. Scott currently oversees all aspects of the interpretive and educational operations at the home of the at the FDR National Historic Site at Top Cottage, the Eleanor Roosevelt National Historic Site, and also at the Vanderbilt Mansion National Historic Site. So Scott, with that portfolio, you have a lot of responsibilities,
yes.
And we're delighted to have you here this evening.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Hey, you gotta be my,
almost forgot my job here.
not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet. Just sit there. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's wonderful to be able to come out into the community to talk about the parks, and give people a little bit more insight on what we're doing and where we're moving forward and things like that. Since I'm mostly an administrator at the parks down there, so I'm going to give you an overview of the parks and what we've been doing and where we're headed and things like that. So, but I do have knowledge about FDR, Eleanor, and the Vanderbilt family, if you want to ask me questions about that after the program. But if probably everybody knows this, we're celebrating our 100th anniversary this year, our centennial. So, and to get this whole program started, I'd like to show a 5-minute video on the National Park Service, how we started and where we are today. And then I'll get into my slide presentation.
In 1872, when President Ulysses Grant signed the bill that created Yellowstone National Park, he was venturing into unknown territory. He could not have grasped the full implications of his actions that day and how they would shape America and echo around the globe. Yellowstone was not just a national park, it was the first national park anywhere in the world. But at the time, there was no dedicated organization to see to its protection and preservation. By 1916, the revolutionary idea that the federal government should set aside land for preservation and public enjoyment had taken root. Yosemite, Sequoia, Mount Rainier, Crater Lake, Mesa Verde, and Glacier soon followed Yellowstone's example. Stephen Mather and Horace Albright, two men working in the Department of the Interior, envisioned a National Park Service that would pave the way for a new era in stewardship of our national treasures. In the 100 years since then, our definition of a national treasure has broadened in ways that encompass the richness and diversity of America. Just 17 years after it was created, a major reorganization reshaped the National Park Service as it was expanded to include the War Department's parks and monuments. This set the stage for parks focused on history, presidential sites, national battlefields, and dozens of sites in Washington, D.C. There are national parks connected to significant chapters in U.S. history, colonial exploration, and first contact between Europeans and native peoples, independence, individual rights and freedoms, the Civil War, westward expansion, immigration, civil rights. We turn to our national parks to mourn national tragedies and celebrate national triumphs. America's love for the automobile led to gracefully designed national parkways. Our vibrant urban life is represented in national parks in cities across the country. Changing attitudes on the environment led to national parks along seashores and lake shores, in wetlands and deserts, caves and coral reefs, volcanoes, hot springs, and mountain ranges from the Appalachians to the Rockies. Theodore Roosevelt understood that preservation must be a cooperative effort. We have fallen heirs to the most glorious heritage a people ever received, he said, and each one of us must do his part if we wish to show that the nation is worthy of its good fortune. Stephen Mather, who became the first director of the National Park Service, reminded us that the Yosemite, the Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon are national properties in which every citizen has a vested interest. America has evolved in the last 100 years, and our national parks have too, in ways that reflect our culture, our values, and what we wish to preserve. We can hear the pride in the words of President Franklin Roosevelt when he said, "There is nothing so American as our national parks." Mount Rushmore, the Liberty Bell, Gettysburg, Lincoln Memorial, Statue of Liberty, Bryce Canyon, Grand Teton, Golden Gate, Everglades. These and so many other treasures of our national park system are part of our cultural heritage. They belong to each and every one of us. The face and character of our country, wrote Thomas Jefferson, are determined by what we do with America and its resources.
Okay. Okay, now your job. When I say next slide, yeah, you're just gonna hit the enter button, okay? Think we can trust him?
He's done it before. He's a pro.
So again, so the 3 National Historic Sites that are located in Hyde Park, right in our backyards, are part of a bit larger system of parks, as you know, called the National Park Service. And I think as of yesterday or 2 days ago, we're 411 strong now. President Obama just added a whole bunch more to the system in the last couple months here. So 411 strong. So I usually like to start out with visitation, just to give people an idea of what how many visitors we do here in a year. And basically, starting at the FDR House, from January 2016 to August 2016, we've done 124,793 people so far this year. That's up from 10% from the same period last year at the same time. Now you guys probably remember a couple years ago the Ken Burns film, The Roosevelts, came out. And we got a huge bump from that. In fact, October was just crazy. We got so busy. We had thousands. I mean, we were rocking in October, and we thought that it might last 6 months to a year, which it did. But even 2 years later, we're still gaining visitation at the FDR site, which is great because it means that the Roosevelt history and period is still alive and well with everybody, and it's, there's so much more coming out every year as far as books goes and things like that, and other documentaries. So the interest is still there, and it's wonderful to see. So our visitation has continued to rise over the years. Over at Valkill, Eleanor Roosevelt's place, again, January 2016 to August 2016. Visitation has been up 1.7% from the same time last year. Oh yeah, one thing I didn't mention was I also broke it down into different categories. Out of that 39,000 people that came to our site from January to August, 3.1% came on motor coaches, 2.1% were school kids, 36% were the general public. And surprising to me was a lot of people just go to see the grounds, walk the grounds and things like that over at Valkill. Going back to the FDR site, 4.8% of the 224,000 came on motor coaches, 5.5% from school groups, 51% from general public, and 37% just used the grounds. At the Vanderbilt Mansion, from January 2016 to August 2016, 258,000 people visited Vanderbilt Mansion. Most of that obviously is the ground, 82% use the grounds of the Vanderbilt Mansion. And that's actually down 5.3% from the same period last year. I think the reason why we're down a little bit up at Vanderbilt Mansion is because of the hot summer that we had. Everybody sort of tended to stay inside this summer. But that's a little bit down. And then we got Top Cod's FDR's retreat. We're from May 1st to August 2016. 3,977 people visited Top Cottage so far this year. And that's only down 0.1% from the same period last year. So that's not too bad. So that's our visitation. So basically overall, we normally do about 650,000 people between the 4 sites every year, which is a major driver in this area as far as visitors go. Next slide, please. We got a new superintendent here the past July. Larry Turk is his name. He comes from New Mexico, a couple parks out in New Mexico. He was a superintendent at. He has to fill some big shoes. I believe everybody knows Sarah Olson. She lives in the community here. I worked with Sarah for the last 17 years at Roosevelt Vanderbilt National Historic Sites, and she was a wonderful person to work with, very caring about the community and about the staff and things like that. So Larry has some big shoes to fill, but so far, he's been here since July, and so far I like him. He's very community orientated. He likes to join boards, so he's going out to the community to join the organizations that the community has, to immerse himself in the community and just be part of the whole thing. So far so good. He's a good guy, and hopefully someday you'll meet him. Next slide, please. And because of Larry, because of his involvement in the community, he wants the park to get out more. So you guys in the future are going to see more of us out in the community doing outreach programs such as this, and being involved in community events such as the July 4th parade in Hyde Park. Of course, this year it would have been kind of embarrassing if we weren't, since the Hyde Park parade theme this year was the National Park Service 100th anniversary, so it was kind of hard to miss. But I know we haven't been in the parade in every year, but this year it was of course it was special. But what was great about it was that I think I had like 25 people on my staff come out and march with me, and I got a guy came up to me. He lives in I can't remember, out a little bit east of here. He's we call him the float guy. Apparently he does floats all over the place. But he approached me when he found out that the Hyde Park theme was the National Park Service. So he approached me back in April and said, "Hey Scott, I would like to work with you on building some floats if you're going to be in the parade and things like that." I said, "Sure." Well, this guy ended up building this beautiful float right here. In the background is the mountains, and then him and his daughter just built this beautiful scene. It was all all plants and things like that. It had a stuffed wolf in there and a stuffed turkey and things like that. It was beautiful. And then we also decorated one of our internal electric trams that we use inside the park with a ranger head on top here and bunting and things like that. But it was a wonderful event, and it was great to be out in the community and enjoying the beautiful day. Next slide, please. We also started a program a couple years ago called the 240th Military Police Program. The 240th Military Police were the soldiers that protected President Roosevelt when he was here during the war years. So they were stationed in Hyde Park, and they protected him. And so we're sort of recreating that whole scene and trying to be more involved in putting together and doing communities events and things like that. So basically right now with the 240th we have a small exhibit that we set up during special days of the year, and we teach the community about what the 240th was all about, what they did here in Hyde Park to protect the president and things like that. So it's up and coming, and people really seem to enjoy that program. Next slide.
Do they still have the wires all underneath the forest all going to the river?
They probably do, but they're not connected anymore.
They're not connected
No.
anymore.
No. Probably a bunch of you were in this audience here for to help us celebrate our 100th anniversary on August 25th. We had West Point Band up at Vanderbilt Mansion for our annual concert, and I think we ended up doing about 3,000 people that night. It was a wonderful thing. And if you were there for that West Point concert, you did meet Larry Turk, our new superintendent. He got up and introduced Dee Dee Barrett, who gave us a certificate for our anniversary. Next. We're also getting more involved in community workshop photos. One of my employees, Bill Urban, puts this on every year, and he does at least 2 of them. And it's a chance for people to come to the park and take photos and be more skilled in how to take photos of nature and animals and things like that. So we offer these a couple of times a year. And they're pretty successful. We usually get about 125 people each time. And again, he normally has guest speakers that are professional photographers to show people how to actually take really good pictures. Next slide. In the way of the exhibits this year, to celebrate our centennial, we developed an exhibit on FDR and his conservation efforts. And this exhibit is currently located at the Vanderbilt Visitor Center. And it's been up since April, and it will continue being up throughout the winter time here and probably be taken down next spring. But it talks about, it goes in depth to FDR's conservation efforts and things like that. And it was FDR who really brought the Park Service, actually increased the Park Service size by 50% by including the military parks, historic sites, and things like that. Before FDR, it was mostly just geared toward, quote, the big national parks out west. So we got to thank FDR for that whole thing. And I'm also trying to get back, trying to get the school kids more involved in the park too. Last year for the 100th anniversary, I teamed up with an organization called the International Fiber Company, who who goes around the country talking to schools and getting the schools involved in doing student artwork. And so what they do is they contact the park, or I contacted them, and I tell them what the theme was, and this year's theme was, what does a park mean to you? And so what this organization does is they reach out to all the local schools in our area and tries to get the teachers and students involved in doing their artwork with the theme of what a park is to you. So from this exhibit, we had over 800 kids participate in doing artwork for this exhibit. It was up for 2 months in the Wallace Center, and 100 pieces were displayed for those 2 months. And what was special about this year's exhibit was that the director of the National Park Service, John Jarvis, actually came to the park in March to celebrate Women's History Month over at Valkill, but he also came over to the FDR site, and he was able to meet some of the students that contributed some of the artwork to this exhibit this year. So it was special for the kids and also special for John Jarvis. It was nice to meet the director of the National Park Service. Projects going on in the park during the centennial. How many people have been up to the Vanderbilt Mansion lately? So all that construction, what they have been doing for the last year is working on the porticos. All 4 porticos around that mansion have been deteriorating over the last 100 years, and so much so that the I-beams, all these I-beams underneath here, were pretty much rotted away. These are steel beams that you could actually put your fist through or see holes through. They're completely rotted. The stonework underneath there was completely rotted. So all that stuff had to be taken out and replaced. And if you've been up there, if you are to go up there right now, next slide please, they're completely done. The front of the mansion steps are all done. Portico here is done. The north portico is beautifully, stairs again all completed, and platform is done. And the east portico that looks out over the river, again, completely done, new staircase and things like that. And what's great about this whole thing is that if you've been, since you've been out there before, you know that they were always roped off, you couldn't get out there. Now you can go up there, and you can get even a better, nicer view of the river and the valley and things like that. And I can imagine that we're going to get a lot of requests from young people to take their wedding photos up there or engagement photos and things like that. So it's really going to improve the visitor experience at the Vanderbilt Mansion, because it's going to add so much with these things done. This project is going to continue into the next year. What's going to happen over the winter time and next summer is they're going to be replacing all these windows all around the mansion, reglazing them all, and making them more energy efficient. A few years ago, we put a new roof on the Vanderbilt Mansion, so we're talking, multi-million-dollar project here, and so the mansion will last for another 100 years, hopefully. Next slide. Going up to the FDR home. Inside the FDR home, if you remember being there last time, there was this ramp that went from the main hallway to the library living room. That ramp has been taken out in the last couple of weeks. That's what it looks like without the ramp in there. And next slide please. And we're replacing it with this structure, another ramp, same size and everything like that. But what's going to be unique about this ramp is that it's going to have glass on top of it, inch and a half piece of glass on top of it, lay on top. And what would be nice about this is that underneath this ramp will be FDR's original ramp leading down to that room. So for the first time, you'll see his ramp and how he got down into these other places in this house. So. Pardon?
It was a chute.
He had a chute from the second floor, yep.
The second floor.
Yep.
I rode that many times.
You rode it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Cool.
He thought it was great.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did.
As a child.
So this, being able to see FDR's ramp, the original ramp here and things like that, will hopefully, again, improve the visitor experience at the FDR home. Next slide, please. On the outside of the FDR home, where the old parking lot used to be for visitors, that's all being torn up because in that area originally was the Roosevelt Vegetable Garden. 2 to 3 acre vegetable garden that they used while they were living here to, because this was a working farm. So that whole area is going to be is being ripped up right now and being turned back into our vegetable garden, which hopefully will produce some vegetables for us in the next coming year, in 2017. Next slide, please. So in that area, the way it's going to be laid out is going to be 4 main plots. Okay, actually 5. And so again, this is about 3 acres of land right here. And we're going to, did I bring it? No, I didn't. We're going to start out with 4 basic, easy to grow vegetables. I think one is a beet, one is a lettuce, and a couple more I can't remember offhand. We're going to start out with that, and the idea is that we will have the vegetables for sale for people to buy, but if we don't sell it all, the idea is that we're going to take the vegetables and give it to the food pantry. So that's the plan. Next slide, please. How many people been in the FDR home recently? Okay. When you walk into the front door, you got that rug there? Okay. It's a Persian rug, and there's wording that goes around it. And everybody always wants to ask us, well, what's that wording mean? Okay. Well, just recently, we had the Prime Minister of Jordan at the park visiting. And one of his entourage was able to interpret the wording around that rug for us for the first time, which is great because we get so many questions about it. So we always thought like what was a prayer rug, but it's not a prayer rug. what it says around there is, it says, "He who has taught me a letter of knowledge, I become to him a slave. Goodness is in faith. Seek knowledge from cradle to grave. The honor in a place is an inhabitant. An orphan isn't one with a deceased relative. Being an orphan is being devoid of knowledge and literature. The well-being of a human is by keeping their tongue. Everything goes back to its origin. The honor of a man is in his virtue, not in his parentage and family. Take the people you talk with by the virtue of their minds. Every member of a generation plays with their own generation. He who is without a livelihood has no turn. A man is hidden beneath his tongue. People are dead and people of knowledge are alive. And the measure of a man is in what he seeks." So this rug was a rug that the Roosevelts had in their house at the time that FDR died. And so what happened to this rug since after that was it was sold off to a private family. And it was returned to us a little bit after 2001. And so it's been in the house since 2001, and for the last, 15 years, we couldn't interpret that rug until just 2 months ago. So
What language was that in?
it was Persian. It was an Iranian rug. Next one. The estate next to the Roosevelt estate is the Morgan estate. And this estate was donated to the National Park Service in the mid-70s, right, Don? Yes. And so the last descendant of the Morgan family donated to the National Park Service, and we took it on, and we currently use it for administrative offices and meeting space and things like that. But this building this year is also getting major renovations done to it. Next slide, please. What's happening to it is, right now what's happening to it is all the shutters are coming down, shutters are being done, all the trim work is being taken care of, rot is being taken care of, it'll be all primed and repainted, and next year a new roof will be going on to that building, along with the windows will all be taken out this winter, reglazed and insulated better and improved upon. The whole building will be improved upon for hopefully another 100 years. So.
Will you be opening it to the public?
It's open to the public now, but there's really nothing in there other than administrative buildings. So, I mean, it'll never be open to the point where we set it up as a house anymore.
Is that where they have the gardens in the back?
We have the Beatrix Ferrand Garden next to us, yes, and that's all run by a volunteer group, which is wonderful. Next slide. Going over the Valkill now, a couple of improvements that we're doing over there is the swimming pool. It's been covered up for many years, right? It's uncovered now. We're going to restore it back to what it used to be, an actual pool. It was a major part of FDR's rehabilitation, and we're going to put a frame in that allows the water to be about 18 inches below the surface, and so people will actually be able to see what the pool looks like without it being covered up anymore. So that's pretty exciting for us to bring that to life again. The stone grill fireplace that FDR used to use many times when they were over at Valkill, the grill is being revamped, and we put new grills, we clean it all out, we fix the chimney, and people are going to be able to use that if they want to picnic over at Valkill. So cook their own hot dogs over there. School kids. One of President Obama's initiative for fourth graders this past year was the Every Kid in Park program. And so every National Park Service site in the country, and I know state parks are also latching onto this, is Every Kid in the Park program. What kids, every fourth graders, what they can do is if this website, they participate in an activity, and after that activity they can download a voucher. They can bring this voucher to any National Park Service site in the country, and we give them a pass, sort of like your senior passes that you have. And that pass is good for that fourth grader for a whole year for free entrances into any National Park Service site in the country. Now you're going to say, well, every kid under 15 gets them for free, which is, you're correct. What is unique about this pass is that it's also good for 3 adult members of their party. So what a great PR tool to get the adults to the park is, you know, having the kids do this free pass, and then they can bring their parents or guardians or other adults to the park. So we're going to continue on with that this year, and we've already given out thousands of passes for these fourth grade kids, and we'll be taking this to the schools this year and promoting it in the schools to get more fourth graders involved in this pass and getting their parents to the park.
Is it true that Obama has done more for parks than any other president up to this point?
It's true that he's setting aside more public lands for parks than anybody else so far this year, and that's why I said, you know, in the beginning that we're 411 strong right now, because before this year I think we only had 401 parks. So already in this last year in office, he's already created 10 new parks for the system.
And do they set money aside for these parks as well, or does that come later?
Yeah, that's always a touchy subject, because supposedly Congress should be setting, you know, some money for the management of this park, but unfortunately it doesn't always come with money. So what's going to end up happening is that the parks that are currently in existence will get some money shaved off us to support these new parks. So and that's really the concern that we all have. Is it's wonderful to, you know, set aside these lands for people, but you got to have money to protect them and preserve them and to keep them, you know, going and things like that. So
Didn't the government cut down on the amount of funding they had for parks 2 or 3 years ago?
yeah, about 4 years ago we did.
Yeah, major cuts.
Yeah, we were actually, it was called sequestration.
Budget.
Yes, sequestration it was called. And when we went through that at that time, we had to close down Top Cos for the summer, and then we also had to close Valkill a few more days because we just didn't have the staff to do it. But this past year, because it's our centennial year, Congress gave us additional money just to get through this year and to promote the parks that much more for people. But you know, we'll see what happens in the future with our budget. Next part. Also, we have Teaching the Hudson Valley, which is an educator-based program that helps educators out there develop curriculums for their students. So Teaching the Hudson Valley is a great resource for educators to teach them, you know, to help them interpret the parks and historic sites and recreational areas for their kids. And currently the Teaching the Hudson Valley is promoting 2 programs for the park. The first one is Writing About Place. I got some information for people that if you're interested in it. It's for kids from first grade to 12th grade to compete in a writing contest. And it helps the kids learn about parks that way by writing about them. And then in October, the Teaching the Hudson Valley is putting on a workshop called Farm to School Workshop, and it's an educational workshop to help people to learn how to get their Well, I'm sorry. It's a realistic way of promoting agriculture for the community and how to bring it into schools. Okay, so if you're interested in that, I got stuff up here too. So those are 2 programs that the Teaching the Hudson Valley is promoting for the National Park Service. Next slide. As I said in the beginning, Larry Turk is a really big advocate for community events and programs and getting us out in the community. This winter, I'm going to be working with my education specialist to go out to the schools to start meeting with the principals and the teachers, and to set up an outreach program that we can start actively going out to the schools and promoting the park that way. Because unfortunately, we can only take so many people through these houses each year. The goal is to go out to the community now and to promote the parks that way. So our goal in 2017 is to go out to at least 200 schools in 2017 to promote the National Park Service that way. So I got a lot of work ahead of me. And as we know, schools always have issues with transportation. The National Park Service does have a transportation grant called Bus on Us. So if you know of any teachers out there that have trouble getting money to bring their kids to the national park sites, please have them give me a call or anybody in the park, because there are grants available for those teachers to bring their kids to the park. So all you got to do is just give me a call and we can easily get them set up. Okay, next program. The other exciting thing for me this year was, for the first time, like you guys know, I've been at the park for 21 years, and we always had an issue with trying to develop a logo that would encompass our 3 sites. And so Larry Turk comes into the park in July, says, okay, we're going to have a contest with all the staff to come up with a logo for the park. We had about 7 or 8 entries. And this was the winning one right here, the middle one. So that's going to be our new logo. So that's the one you're going to see on a lot of stuff that anything that we send out to people. We're going to hopefully get little knickknacks and things like that, so we can start handing out to people at different events. So that's the logo you're going to start seeing with us. And if we do special things at the individual parks, like the FDR home, you'll see this logo for Vanderbilt Mansion, this logo for Valkill, and this logo for Top Cottage, if we do anything for the individual sites. But this will become the main one right here. So it's pretty exciting after 21 years. Finally got a logo. So. Upcoming projects and programs to look for in 2017. We partnered with Dutchess County Tourism just recently to develop this passport booklet. $65 gets you into Claremont, the National Park Service site, FDR Library, Locust Grove, Mount Julian, Statsburg, Wildenstein, and discounts to many restaurants and wineries around here. So it's good for 1 year, and it gets you into all those sites. So if you're interested in doing that, you can buy them online or you can buy them at the parks. Eleanor Roosevelt's birthday coming up October 11th at 3 p.m. The celebration will happen at the FDR home at the gravesite. Torchlight Parade, October 14th. This is a special event that we only do every 4 years during the election year. And what we do is we recreate what the community used to do for FDR when he won his election. They came out with torches, they marched up Route 9 to his house. He'd come outside with his family to greet you guys and thank you for your support and everything like that. So we recreate that. So come join us. You'll get to meet FDR, Eleanor, Sarah Roosevelt, and even Fowler. So that's October 11th. On Veterans Day this year, our 240th members will be there handing out American flags for all the veterans, and we're creating a pin for all the veterans with that park logo that you just saw on it. So, and it'll be free admission to all veterans. And our holiday open houses: Vanderbilt Mansion, December 4th, FDR Home Library, December 10th, along with Valkill on December 10th. If you come to the Vanderbilt open house this year, it's going to be a little bit different than in past years. We're not going to decorate the mansion this year because it's going to be under construction. What we're going to do is we're going to decorate fully the pavilion. And so that will be decorated to the guild. And we'll still take you through the mansion, but we'll be talking more about the construction project and where we're going with the whole thing versus talking about Christmas there.
Question about these passes, that's for one person, right?
Yeah, this pass right here?
Yeah, it's for one.
Yeah, it's for one person, yes. 2017, I'm developing a new Junior Ranger program for Valkill. Anybody that doesn't know what a Junior Ranger program is, it's the National Park Service has these Junior Ranger programs all around the country for kids. And it's where the kids can go to the park, participate in a bunch of activities to learn more about the park, and then at the end of their stay there, they can take the booklet back up to the visitor center desk, and we give them a certificate and a badge, and they become Junior Rangers for the day or for life until they become a park ranger. So it's kind of cool. And what's nice about the Valkill one is that I had back in April, I had this woman call me up and she said to me, Scott, I was out at Valkill about a week ago with my daughter, and she was really upset because you guys didn't have a Junior Ranger program. Are you guys going to get a Junior Ranger program going? And I said, yeah, I'm actually in the works right now, and hopefully in the summer of 2016 I'll have it all ready for you. She said, great. She said, but in the meantime, my daughter was so disappointed that you didn't have a Junior Ranger program that she, in her class, she developed one herself for Valkill. And I'm wondering if you'd be interested in looking at it. I said, sure. So she sent it to me. I looked at it, and her daughter's 9 years old. She developed this Junior Ranger program. I looked at it, I showed it to my staff, I said, this is wonderful. I mean, she did a great job at it. So I called her up and I said, would you be willing to donate your Junior Ranger program for Valkill? I mean, I'll give you all the credit and everything like that, but I want to use your work for all the other kids that come here. And she said, yeah, sure. So I'm taking her idea and putting it into a booklet, and hopefully this will be completed by December. I'm shooting for December 11th because that's December 11th is when the Universal Human Rights was adopted by the UN. So it's a special day for us. So I'm hoping that we can unveil this new Junior Ranger program on December 11th. I'm going to invite her and her mother to the park, and we're going to get, hopefully we'll get some kind of congressperson there to hand this 9-year-old girl the first Junior Ranger badge for Valkill, and make a big deal out of it because it's kind of special that this 9-year-old girl developed this program for us. It's kind of cool. And then the 240th Military Police Program is going to be putting on an organizational day in August of next year. And what the organizational day is a day that apparently they had each year, I guess, when they're here, and it's a day of fun. Outdoor activities, it's a picnic for their families and the police themselves, and so we're going to recreate that for the community next August. So come out and join us at the parks for that day. So you'll get more information as we get closer to that. Next slide. Just to remind everybody about our hours of operation. The home of FDR is open from 9 to 5, 7 days a week, year round. We're closed Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Day. Valkill from May to October, open 9 to 5, 7 days a week. November through April, we're closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but we're open Thursdays through Mondays. for a 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock tour. Top Cottage is open May through October, it's closed November through April. And Vanderbilt Mansion is open year-round, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're closed on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Day. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have two.
Sure.
Vanderbilt became a part of the Park Service before Roosevelt Estate?
Yes, it did. It was made part of the National Park Service in 1940.
Noticed that.
And it became part of the National Park Service because of the President of the United States, FDR. He always really enjoyed the grounds there on the Vanderbilt, and so when the niece couldn't sell it off to one owner, he approached her and asked her if she'd be willing to donate it to the National Park Service for, I guess, $1 or $2. So, and because she really didn't need it. She had her mansions in Newport, Rhode Island, and things like that. So, yes, Don.
The first superintendent of a National Historic Site in Hyde Park was a woman.
Yes.
And but it was during the war years, so not much was accomplished until the home of FDR opened early in April 1946.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they combined the two sites, and then
under one superintendent, right?
one superintendent, and George Palmer was the first superintendent.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, and Fred Rath was the
Yep.
historian.
Yeah.
That's Chief Visitor Services at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Who was a mentor of mine.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Well, those two guys, Palmer and Rath, they actually had the brilliant idea of saying, we got all these employees that are still alive, knew the Roosevelts, all these people in the community that knew these people. We really need to get them on tape. And they're the ones that really started the whole oral history collection. And because of these two people, we have a wonderful history of what happened at these places and things like that, and how these people operated and live and things like that. So yeah, thanks to those two people, we got this great collection of data up there. Yeah. What was your second
My
question?
other question, just how do you know how many people come on the grounds?
Oh, I'm gonna have to give up a secret.
Is something when you drive in?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Has
Yeah,
to be.
we have a traffic counter.
Yeah, okay.
So every time that you guys drive into the Vanderbilt Mansion, we count that car as having 2.8
Okay.
people per vehicle.
2.8? Really?
I don't know who came up with the
That seems
2.8.
high.
I don't know what happened to that.
I think they're trying to fudge the numbers high.
Yeah.
'Cause that sounds high.
Yeah. So it's 2.8, and then we actually subtract so many vehicles per month because we think that, okay, our maintenance trucks go in there, and I go in there, and so I think the number is like 700 vehicles we subtract or whatever like that out of
Also
there.
doesn't account for the people who return, go back.
Someone could drive
More
in
than
circles
one.
and leave them tomorrow,
It's
leave
still
them
a
back.
visit.
Well, yeah, still a visit. Yeah, still a visit. Yeah. Hey, work with me here.
Then does that count the concerts?
Oh yeah.
Does count the concerts?
Yeah, but we actually have rangers out there, as you know, and they sort of give a head count. I mean, it's not exact, but we can sort of gauge, how many people we get there. Just for Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It's the most visited national park in the whole entire country. Everybody thinks it might be Yellowstone or Grand Canyon, but it's Great Smoky Mountains. You know why? Because everybody drives through it and they count them. So 2.8. I'm gonna count every car that drives through my property too. So. And I'll put 2.8 people in each one of those cars. Yeah, I know it's kind of weird how they do it, but that's sort of like the formula throughout the National Park Service. Yeah. So, anybody have any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What happened to the Rogers estate?
Didn't it all got developed, I think?
They took it down after World War II.
Yeah.
Did they sell it to somebody, or why was it taken down?
I don't know, do you know that question? What happened to Rochester
As far as
State?
I know, the mansion's still there, it's fenced off, you can't get very close to it.
Where is it?
It was there 10 years ago, right in the middle of Hyde Park. You know, they called it Lollipop Lane.
Now I gotta do some research.
Well, yeah, suckers. They were, after the war,
Yeah,
we didn't have all the things needed to build with.
okay.
So those were small houses,
Mm-hmm,
and, you know, they weren't the greatest.
yeah,
They've improved them a great deal since then, but
okay.
I thought at the time that, well, Rosa had died after before the war was over.
Mm-hmm,
But it was a lot of property.
yeah. I'll have to do some research, I didn't know it still
And
existed.
houses all on it,
Yeah.
you know, they built.
That's,
And now I've noticed that they've added a lot onto those houses and things,
Okay,
and so forth. But I like the Rogers estate because my Uncle Lou was Sarah's chauffeur.
oh, really? Okay,
And when I get itchy, you know, and wanting to do stuff, she used to always open the playhouse for me. And I thought that was something, electric stove in there and everything. I thought that was great. And, but I would go have it, he would take me over to the Rogers estate because that had a bowling alley in it.
oh, interesting.
2-lane bowling
Wow.
alley, and that's where I learned to bowl.
Well, I'm gonna sit down, you guys can teach me the history of the place, I mean, I love this,
I
yeah.
can teach you a lot.
I'm sure you can, yeah.
I was right in the midst of it, and my father was one of his favorites. Their letters were signed Lee and Franklin.
Oh, cool.
He never said President Roosevelt or President, he just signed his name Franklin, and my father signed his name Lee.
Oh, interesting. I know that.
They
yeah.
built my father was the postmaster that got that post office in Rhinebeck.
Oh,
Because of
really?
his friendship with Roosevelt.
Oh, very interesting. Very cool. I know that Franklin used to sign his tax returns as tree farmer and not president. That's what I heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
We got a couple
But
questions here. Yes.
You clearly love your job. If you have one wish for the future of the parks, what might it be?
Well, I think one of my fears is that we're going too far toward technology. And I'm not saying that technology is useful and good and things like that, but I fear that we're losing our human communication, with each other, because everybody's using their cell phones, the whole virtual tour thing, and I'm afraid that we're going to go to the extreme of technology, and we're not going to have the rangers in the parks as much interacting with everybody. And I think that's a very important aspect of the parks, and because everybody likes to go there and have a range to talk to somebody. I mean, how do you feel when you call an organization and you get that answer machine, or they say, oh, press number 1 or 2 and things like that? It drives me crazy, and it drives me even crazier when people call up the park and we have our answer machine on because we just don't have the personnel to answer it all the time. So I think that's my biggest fear. Yes.
I just wanted to. I'm a Vanderbilt Garden volunteer,
Oh.
and I direct the tours.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I want to.
And what's your name?
Cecily Frazier.
Oh, nice to meet you, Cecily.
Cecily. Nice to meet you. I wanted to thank the Park Service because we have a wonderful relationship with the Park Service, and they work very well both with us and with the Ferrand Garden people as
Yes.
well. And just to tell everybody here that the garden has tours every third Sunday, 1 to 4,
Yep.
and also for groups of 10, you can organize, you can call me and, or go online and organize a free tour of the garden. And it's a beautiful place.
And you guys do a wonderful job. I mean, that was, we really were happy when you guys started that whole tour thing a couple of years ago, so it really made the experience so much greater for people up there. So thank you for everything that you do. I mean, without these garden groups, they would just be wastelands.
I'll jump on this,
It was
Cecily.
4 women in Hyde Park, just regular women
Yeah.
in Hyde Park, who walked there and said, this is such a shame that
Yeah.
it's fallen into rack and ruin, and that was 30 years ago.
And we're glad you did. We really are, yeah.
Those women are the real heroes.
Yes.
And I'm a volunteer gardener at Battlefield. I've done it now for 5
Oh,
years.
really? So
and
you work
that's
with-
been a fabulous project.
So you work with Anna down there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't she
Developed
wonderful?
that. We get such good feedback from the visitors, which is great. So we get depressed when the park closes on Wednesday.
Yeah, and you guys just really cleaned that whole place up. It looks wonderful.
The park rangers are always saying to us, my God, it's never looked so good. And we
Yeah.
love it.
Oh, yeah. We're serious. I mean, you guys just really did a wonderful job. So, yes.
I hike the trails at FDR, and the back of the property is a stone statue that has no plaque on it. It's at the very edge of the property.
Mhm.
Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, a little bit. Actually, that statue is called. I think it's called the Weeping Woman.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a woman,
Yeah. It's now in the visitor center.
Okay,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
But the story that we know about is that FDR, I guess when he was out in California at one point, he saw this statue that he really loved out there, and so he contacted the artist, the sculptor, and said, "Can you make me one? Cause I love it so much." Well, this sculptor said, "Sure, I'll make you an art, a project." So, and this is what he designed for FDR. And as soon as he saw it, he hated it. Because it wasn't what he expected. I mean, he wanted one similar to the one that he saw out in California, but this guy decided to take his own idea and design something for FDR, and he thought he would love it. But, like I said, FDR saw it, he hated it, and I guess he told his ground superintendent, put it as far away on the property as you possibly can. And that was, at that time, that was the end of his property, because right next to it was the Morgan estate, so that was the end of his property.
He's rolling in his grave
got a
now
couple-
that it's in Morgan.
Exactly, yeah.
Couple of
Just
hands
that.
up.
Is the statue still there?
It's actually in the Wallace Center now. The library moved it into the Wallace Center, cleaned it all up and everything.
Because it was at the far end of the old parking lot, and it was, someone planted conifer trees all
Yeah.
around it to
Yeah.
camouflage it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I think, did you have your hand up way in the back a moment ago? No, okay. So, I want to thank everybody, I want to thank Scott.
Thank you
And remind everybody that there's literature here that Scott brought with him. If you're interested in any of this material, please stop up, and we'll